James Laurinaitis just snagged five-star linebacker Riley Pettijohn from the state of Texas.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here on Monday, July 8th in the year 2024, I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Last week was a big week for my wife and I. Our first son was born on July 2nd, last Tuesday. We thought, hey, maybe he would hit on July 4th. No, a couple of days prior. So we are currently on cloud nine, adjusting to life with a newborn, adjusting to life as our family just got a little bit bigger. And in the midst of the emotions and the excitement, I've been trying to figure out what's going on with Ohio State recruiting. Now, it's really hard to do that when you got a newborn in the home and he wants to eat, wants to sleep. He wants to eat, he wants to sleep. But in the midst of his cycle and his life, I'm still trying to figure out and follow the Buckeyes recruiting. Yeah, the Buckeyes didn't get Decorian Moore. He committed to Oregon. It's another Buckeye target that the Buckeyes didn't get to those pesky Oregon Ducks. This kind of amps up that meeting on October 12th. And then there's Riley Pettijohn, five-star linebacker from the state of Texas, that James Laurinaitis said, hey, sir, come up, leave the Lone Star State, come up to Columbus and play football. And Pettijohn said yes. And these are the kinds of things that James Laurinaitis wants to have during his first time being a full-time assistant coach at Ohio State. Being able to go out and get a guy in TJ Alford from IMG Academy, going out there and be able to get a guy that's in-state, and Eli Lee at linebacker, and then going down to Texas, a school that is a state that has. They got Texas Tech. They got Texas A&M. They got Texas. They got SMU. They got so many schools for these guys to go to. And all of a sudden, Laurinaitis says, okay, cool. I know what y'all got. I know Longhorns and Red Raiders and Aggies. I know about all that stuff, but I don't care. Mustangs. I don't care about that. This is Ohio State. This is what we do. We go out there. We recruit elite linebackers. We pursue them. We lure them to Columbus. And then what do? We develop them. And Laurinaitis going out there in this time period, pursuing elite guys, going out there and getting guys, a guy in-state, a guy from a prep school, and a guy down from Texas. He is doing something right in his first year as a linebacker coach at Ohio State. And y'all, I can't wait to see what he does in developing players like Cody Simon, like CJ Hicks, like Sonny Styles and others. Why? Because if he's doing this and putting this energy down there in the recruiting, just you wait and see what he does with these three linebackers I just mentioned. And this is huge. Currently right now, Ohio State has three linebackers that are currently committed in the class of 2025. Riley Pettijohn is a headliner. TJ Alford from IMG Academy, a four-star. And then Eli Lee, an in-state prospect. He's also a four-star linebacker. Ohio State also has a couple of guys, two guys, currently committed from Ohio State that are from the state of Texas, and they're both five stars in Devin Sanchez and now Riley Pettijohn. This is great. This is huge. Like, we're going to talk about what Pettijohn is as a player in a second. But what school out there would you think can have a guy that was a five-star? I don't know his recruiting ranking. I'm not trying to go back that far to the early 2000s to know what kind of prospect Laurinaitis was. As far as, was he a four-star? Was he? I don't know. And truly, I don't really care. I know what I do care about. He was a three-time consistent All-American at Ohio State. Went on to the NFL and did some good things there in the league as well. A lot of guys that are at his level aren't able to recruit like this, aren't able to coach like he can. He is special. We knew he was a special Buckeye and will be forever a special Buckeye as a player. But if he can make that same transition to being a coach and be a special coach as well, you got guys in Eli Lee and TJ Alford and Riley Pettijohn just in this early initial recruiting class that he has. We're saying, oh, Laurinaitis is it's helping me. On official visits, Laurinaitis and Jim Knowles went out and just laid out the plan, the development plan for Pettijohn. He said, hey, you come here. This is your progression. You stick to the plan. This is what we expect from you. This is the kind of player we think you can be if you stick to the plan. Now, it's great, but also I think Laurinaitis does something that a lot of other coaches, not saying all, but a lot of other coaches don't do. He ain't out here sugarcoating nothing. He is not in here just trying to fill space and say, oh, you're going to be this kind of guy, going to be out here doing that kind of thing. He has never come across to me as a kind of coach or the person or individual that is going to lie or just spew things out to get a guy to come to campus and to get a guy to verbally commit to a school and then again on the sound of the dotted line. He has never come across like that ever when I heard him talk. And so when I hear people say or I read things about, hey, well, what is going on? What did they do that kind of stuck out? Their development plan, and not only your position coach, but also your unit coach being on defense and them having the thing laid out together and them being on the same page even before you're on campus, buddy, that's huge. Now, I do think it's not something new that other players don't have where coaches don't lay out a plan. I think other coaches do lay out a development plan for certain people, but I think sometimes it could be a few lies thrown in there just to try to make you feel good. That ain't that here. But also, so much good stuff when it comes to Pettijohn. When it comes to him as a player, his instincts are not normal in a good way. Not the instincts where it's like a guy can't read nothing. He's a 5-star for a reason. His instincts are insane. He could play Mike linebacker, Will linebacker. If the Buckeyes ran a 4-3, he could play Sam linebacker. He could play any three of the linebacker spots. Now, you think a linebacker, what is he in coverage? In zone coverage, he's really, really good. Like, he's not one of those guys that's out here on zone in zone coverage, just out there in space and messing things up and having a few issues. He is not that kind of guy at all. Never has been. I don't believe he ever will be. So I do think when it comes to Pettijohn, that will translate to a degree. College football ain't high school football. Even as big as high school football is in Texas and as good as the state of Texas is at producing elite talent, there is still a steep uphill climb to get to where Ohio State is playing football. That's just the nature of the beast. So I do think those two things are there, but also his willingness to play special teams. First play I saw on the huddle film that I watched, it was a play him on kickoff, and he just absolutely demolished the return man. I mean, there was nothing this man could do except for bam, hit the ground really hard. Why? Because Pettijohn, when he hits you, there's a little bit of a feeling. It's not a light feeling or feeling like a feather. No, there's nothing like that. When this man hits you, you feel it. Now, when I watched him out there, it reminded me about back when I played high school football, and we called the kickoff team Murder Squad. Can't do that no more. Oh, no. They try to even eliminate the kickoff in certain elements or rearrange the kickoff to make it more of a safer part of the game. But we called it Murder Squad. Why? Because you're running down there full speed trying to, well, not literally murder somebody, but deplete them. Make them feel you. Make them hurt a little bit as they trot off to the sideline. And, well, when he was on that play, I had a flashback to LC football. Murder Squad. That flashback was there. And I can't wait to see Pettijohn now. It's not over. I was about to say I can't wait to see Pettijohn wear the scarlet and gray. But it's not over. He picked Ohio State over some elite schools. Those elite schools and maybe others are going to continue to pursue him and recruit him. It's not over until that man signs on the dotted line. If James Laurinaitis, I say you snagged him. It's only part of the thing to get the verbal commitment. The rest of it, is to get that man a sign on the dotted line. It can happen. You got to keep pushing. Got to keep pursuing. And I think it's what Ohio State and James Laurinaitis will do to get and to lure and to push and encourage Pettijohn to sign on the dotted line on the probably early signing day. Speaking of signing on the dotted line, the Buckeyes would love for David Sanders Jr. to sign on the dotted line on National Signing Day following a verbal commitment to Ohio State. He hasn't verbally committed yet. There's a good chance he will verbally commit to Ohio State in a few weeks from now. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. It's so easy. And Gametime allows you to customize your ticket purchasing process with some of the opportunities and advantages they provide for you, the consumer, to purchase tickets, like flash deals, which help you save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. They have zone deals as well, which help you save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose your seats. And also, you're going to love their all-in pricing, which is toggling. This feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. David Sanders Jr. to Ohio State is one of those things that Buckeye fans have been wanting for a very long time. Not since we started talking about him here on this show, but even prior to that, when David Sanders Jr. was one of the up-and-coming guys, and he was a freshman with a sophomore, and people were saying, who is going to be one of the better offensive tackles in this class, or who has an opportunity to be? It's David Sanders Jr. Then all of a sudden, when you hear, oh, he's visiting Ohio State at this time. Oh, he took an OV to Ohio State at this time. More and more people are saying David Sanders Jr. to Ohio State because they want it. Not even knowing if it's a possibility. Like, hey, is it realistic he's going to commit to Ohio State? I don't know. I have no idea. But I do know this, that the Buckeyes are getting closer. They're getting a lot closer to the reality of David Sanders Jr. committing to Ohio State, because he recently released his Final Four. His Final Four go like this: Tennessee, Georgia, Nebraska, and Ohio State. Now, you may be like me when you saw Nebraska and you saw him on this grouping. You're like, wait, Nebraska? What do the pesky Cornhuskers have that will make them be in this grouping with Ohio State, Georgia, and Tennessee? Now, I don't know Georgia's recruiting very well. I don't know who they have in their recruiting class right now. But I do know this. There's a kid out there named Nico. Don't ask me to say his last name at Tennessee because I just can't pronounce it. However, there's a kid out there named Nico. Really talented quarterback. Maybe David Sanders Jr. wants to block for him. Georgia, Kirby Smart. What do they do every single year? Produce really good offensive linemen that get drafted. Tennessee does the same thing, but Georgia does it at an even higher clip. So the Georgia makes sense, and then Ohio State makes sense too. Now, Ohio State, we're going to dive into that one a little bit, but when it comes to these four, right now, and it's just based off of how I think Ohio State is going to stack up with the others, I think it's probably Ohio State and Georgia, the top two, and then Nebraska and Tennessee, the bottom two. I think just based off who I think, Nebraska has Dylan Raiola, former Ohio State verbal commit. I think he actually was committed to Georgia too, honestly. I forget. I know he had 2 or 3 schools he was verbally committed to before landing in Nebraska. We're just a weird commitment of recruitment. I think he also played at 4 high schools, which makes that recruitment kind of make a whole lot more sense when you're playing for that many schools. But Ohio State can do this. I mean, this is something that you want Justin Frye to be able to win. You want Ryan Day and Chip Kelly to be able to provide the right influence, to provide the right insight and information, and to be able to really recruit him in the way that you need to lure David Sanders Jr. to Ohio State. Why? It's one of those things that has to happen. And I don't say has to. It needs to. It needs to happen. You need to have a guy like this in your recruiting class. Ohio State's offensive recruiting has not been the best of late. They've missed on some guys. Guys have gone to other places, and I'm not really upset with that. They've done a good job of doing things in state with the Armstrong twins. I think it's Devontae and DeAndre. Forgive me. I know Devontae is one of them. I forget the other twin's name. But they've done a good job with some in-state guys, but they've been missing on some guys in recruiting. They haven't developed guys like they would like to, like they need to. So with Davis Sanders Jr., his athleticism, I believe he's the number one offensive tackle in the class, one of the top 10, top 5 guys in the class as well, just depending on who you talk to, a recruiting database and things like that. But he's one of those guys that you say, is he a dude? Yes. Is he someone that could play, not year one, but could play in year 2 at whatever school he goes to? Yes. Is he someone that can lure other elite, not just prospects, but elite prospects to the school he's at? Yes. Does he have the athleticism you want from a guy who's playing offensive tackle? Versatility, sideline to sideline, the agility. Yes. He has a power. He has a pass pro that's down pat. Yes, yes, yes. Which goes into why Ohio State needs to do what they can, everything they can, everything that they need to do needs to happen for them to get this young man. Why? Currently, right now in the recruiting class, I believe they only have one offensive lineman committed. They have 2, excuse me. One in Jake Cook, a 3-star from Westerville, Ohio. And the other is Carter Lowe from Toledo, Ohio. Both in-state guys. You cannot build a recruiting class on in-state guys, especially on the offensive line. Now, Ohio's one of those states where they're very fortunate to have guys that are in-state that are really, really good. Tavian St. Clair being one of them. Carter Lowe being another, just mentioned his name. They have Bo Jackson, just committed to Ohio State too. Real name's Lamar, not Bo, but I like that he goes by Bo Jackson. Kind of plays on everybody's mind. That's his nickname. Great. Hey, Bo, do your thing, dog. Make sure you sign on the line and being a Buckeye in the future. But I think with what Laurinaitis is currently doing, he can help in a certain way Justin Fry get a guy like this to come to Ohio State. Now, here's the interesting thing. Justin Fry's track record at Ohio State, developing talent and getting talent to be a certain way. The one guy that I think can help in this recruitment is Jonathan Simmons. Here's the interesting thing. Davis Sanders Jr. is going to commit before we're going to see Simmons in year 2 under Fry. So that's one of those things. Now, who's been on campus? Davis Sanders Jr. Who has he probably interacted with a little bit? Simmons, starting left tackle, who was a transfer. So that influence there. Simmons and Sanders Jr. Now, I don't think Simmons, at the end of the day, is going to be the caliber of talented player that Sanders Jr. can be at the end of his collegiate career. But that is one person that can show what Justin Fry can do when he develops a certain player. And I'm curious to see exactly what happens, if it works, if it doesn't work. I am going to be curious to see all of that. However, this is one thing Ohio State's watching very, 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 very closely. When it comes to Sanders Jr., his plan is to announce his commitment on August 17th. Now, he has a football season to play coming up here soon. Don't exactly know when the season's going to start, but I do know this. That's at the beginning of it. May not be before the first game, but it's in the beginning of that final season he has playing high school football. Get that thing out the way, and then Sanders Jr., go out there and rock. Go out there and roll. Go out there and bust some heads out there protecting your quarterback. That's one thing I want to see Sanders Jr. do. Not only commit to Ohio State, but also bust some heads on the football field. It's okay. We like it. Get a little physical. And rough somebody up. One thing I would love for Ohio State's defense to do is something Jordan Hancock wants more of from the Buckeyes defense. I'll tell you what it is next. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Jordan Hancock is one of those guys that some people say is really underrated. He is a phenomenal player. going to play, I always call it nickel corner cover or cover safety. He's one of those guys that when you watch a player, like, oh, okay, you a little bit different. Had a little issue with injuries when he first got to Columbus, starting his Buckeye career, but ultimately last year, fully healthy, split time between him and Sonny Styles. But what are we going to find? When Hancock's on the field, he does a lot of things right. Had a pick 6 last year, had a lot of things that went and showed up in the stat sheet. And before we get to the stat sheet, I do think that what standards do, previous segment. I do think what Hancock wants to see more of is something that I think a lot of us that are Buckeye fans or people that host shows like this one want to see more of from the Buckeyes defense. And I've been calling for this for a long time. Jordan Hancock wants to see more from the back end, interceptions, more forced fumbles, making more turnovers. I'm going to read a quote from him here in a second. But I do think he wants to see that, and it should happen. It isn't something that where you're saying like, oh, we want to see this, and well, it should happen, but also, can it happen? No, this absolutely 100%. It should happen. It needs to happen. It can happen. You don't put the talented players on a defense like this and then sit out here and say, okay, just tackle, bite the ball, but don't bite it too hard because the ball might not come out. The ball might come out of his hands and it might be a fumble. But no, when I say bite the ball, face mask the ball, bite the ball, like Little League football, I teach you that all the time. Bite the ball, but don't go too hard. You don't want to force a fumble. The ball might flop all over the place and end up in the end zone. Touchdown for the other. That's stupid. That don't make no sense. No. You want people to hit the ball hard. You want people to form tackle. You want people to change things up, down, distance, placement of the field to cause interceptions, to cause ball disruptions, to cause things that make the defense win. Here's Hancock's quote. We just got to make more plays in the back end. I feel like I can get more interceptions, more forced fumbles, so just ball disruptions and making more turnovers. That's our main goal, end quote. Great. Cool. That's the end goal. And Hancock saying that's one thing. We have seen him do that. He's been a major disruptor, disrupting passes, disrupting the run game, disrupting a lot of things. He's a phenomenal tackler inside the box for a corner. I mean, he's one of those guys. Are you saying, okay, cool. Can he play outside corner? Great. Yes. Can he play nickel corner? Great. Yes. Can he play safety? Maybe stronger free? Yes. Maybe not his strongest place to put him on the field, but he can get that thing done. Now, when I think about Ohio State, I'm not going to go through the past few years or the past couple of years under Jim Knowles. Let's just go to last year. Did the Buckeyes have enough forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, interceptions? I'm not even going to go pick 6. Just interceptions for what you think they should have with the talent on the team? To me, no. Davidson Igmanosin started 13 games for the Buckeyes last year. Had the third most tackles with 59 for the team. That's another conversation for another day. No INTs, 5 pass breakups, got his hands on the ball, 2 fumble recoveries, no forced fumbles. Eichenberg last year had 1 forced fumble. He's gone. Sonny Styles had 1 forced fumble. He had 1 pass breakup. Changing positions. I think that he could get more this year. Jack Sawyer had 2 forced fumbles. Let's keep going down the list. Hancock had 2 forced fumbles, 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. One of those was a pick 6. So he's not only saying he needs to do more of something. He did quite a bit of that last year. Just do more. Lathan Ransom, 1 pick, 1 forced fumble. Denzel Burke, 1 pick, 1 forced fumble. Jermaine Matthews Jr. had a pick 6 of his own. Now, I'm only going over that because, Josh Proctor had a pick. When you think about the guys that are still at Ohio State this year, that were on the team last year, that trying to figure out, did the ball disruptions actually show up in the stat sheet? Okay, Hancock had 2 picks. Going to go over this again. 2 picks, 1 pass breakup, 2 forced fumbles. Tua Maloa still here. Nah. Didn't have it. Lathan Ransom, 1 pick, 1 forced fumble. Got to do better. Denzel Burke's one of those guys. He had 1 forced fumble, only 1 interception. I think it's a misconception or misnomer that when you're an elite corner that it's automatically going to turn into getting a lot of interceptions. Well, yes, that's one thing. You're going to get interceptions. one is not enough. But however, you're not going to get it. He's not going to have 10 plus, 15 plus. No, because people don't throw the ball his way. That's one thing in college that opposing offenses can do that really doesn't work in the NFL. If you're that dude, guys aren't going to throw the ball your way. Now, if you go ahead and look at Darrelle Revis, Ty Law, I know I'm going back a ways. Any other elite corners? Yeah, a lot of them guys in the NFL got some picks. Why? Because the quarterback had to throw the ball their way. There was no way he could avoid throwing to that side of the ball, that side of the field. But no, man, I've been calling for this for a long time, and a real long time. Ohio State's too talented, way too talented, to have your best corner and some of the other guys that are starters on the team. Eichenberg, no picks, 1 forced fumble. That's it. I like Ike. Really good player. Expect more from him. Forcing more fumbles, fumble recovery or 2, pass breakups a little bit. Igbenogson, no interceptions, no forced fumbles. Just going off of what Hancock said he wants to see. Cody Simon, no interceptions, no forced fumbles, no fumble recoveries. You ain't got to get a pick. Force the ball out. A fumble recovery. Do things that are disrupting plays that actually show up in the stat sheet. Now, that's not the end-all be-all. Not everything you do to disrupt the play is going to show up in the stat sheet. But turnover-wise, Ohio State could easily be one of those teams that averages 2 turnovers a game. That's a lofty, lofty statement. And I understand 2 turnovers a game, averaging, that also is factoring in, hey, maybe there's a game where you have 3 or 4 turnovers and one game where you have 0. Why? Just based off the opponent you're playing. That's a reality. Also keep in mind, when Ohio State's backups come in against Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall early in the year, also Michigan State and some of those Big Ten schools that just aren't that good, Ohio State's backups will start. A lot of their backups will start on other teams in the Big Ten. Some of the better teams in the Big Ten could probably take some of Ohio State's backups and put them on the field. Malik Hartford, Jermaine Matthews Jr., Calvin Hunt. The list goes. Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson Jr. Just to name some. Where these guys are backups at Ohio State, could go to the other Big Ten schools and play right now. They could do that, which goes into why when some of those cupcakes or some of those lower level schools, Ohio State should be out there not trying to just get the team, just trying to, okay, we're paying you money, we're going to lay off the gas a little bit. No, be the enforcer, be aggressive, and make sure you try to do what you can. Not only disrupt plays, but get your hands on that ball, squeeze that thing, secure it, turn over, get your offense back on the field. These are the things that Ohio State should be doing, should be looking forward to making happen. Now, just go do it. Jordan Hancock ain't saying that nobody else has not said previously. He's saying exactly what should happen. It should be a thing where Ohio State averages 1 turnover a game. Didn't happen last year, which is sad, isn't it, when I say that out loud? You're like, wait, they didn't? No. Last year, Ohio State's defense averaged 0.8 turnovers a game. The Buckeyes offense averaged 1 turnover a game. Those numbers, they're not false. That's reality. Also, it shouldn't be that way. You should average less turnovers on offense and average more turnovers on defense. Why? You're Ohio State. You're too talented for the numbers to be that way in 2024. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Locked On Buckeyes. Glad to be back here. Last week, a lot of last week was pre-recorded because my wife and I were going to the hospital to have our son. And now this is not pre-recorded 3 or 4 days prior to it actually airing. This is hitting you fresh. I like it. I love it. I love my son. Love my wife. Love being back here with you. If you have not already done this, go out there and subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes. I know you love the show. Tune into it 5 days a week, every Monday through Friday, either Apple or Spotify or the YouTube. Follow the show. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button on this video and hit the bell so you are notified every time your new video goes live. You can follow me on X at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. Out of here on a Monday. See you next time.